Welcome to the AirPower Airwaves, the AirPower Manufacturing Solutions podcast series where we talk about manufacturing issues that impact you. Hey, this is Travis Stirewalt. Welcome to another episode of AirPower Airwaves, and today is a first for AirPower's podcast. Today we have a robotics expert in-house. With FANUC America. I'm going to introduce him right now. Mark?
Hey.
Mark Patterson, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So FANUC America. And then we have Dusty Coble.
How's it going?
Dusty's a newer AirPower transplant.
Right.
So we've got you here in High Point.
Right.
And you are a
controls
engineer with AirPower.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys are two that would work together on projects. He's the outside support, you're the inside technology on the inside.
Right. Yep.
Put it all together to make things happen for customers.
Correct.
All right. Yep. So today, with a lot of things that we've done recently, automation is a big deal. Like we've talked a lot about automation within AirPower. Mm-hmm. Automation is a really big topic with a lot of our customers. And I think another thing that's happening is customers who were not thinking about automation are now thinking about automation for the first time. You know, a lot of times they get in their head, oh, automation is way too expensive. I can't get into that. And they're finding out that, possibly they could clean up their processes a little bit, streamline some things, and make it repeatable. And another thing that comes up in this podcast every time, repeatability is profitability. It comes up all the time. So that definitely would apply in the robotics world. So, guys, welcome to AirPower Airwaves. And let's dive into FANUC America here.
Yeah, sure.
So tell us a little bit about FANUC.
Yeah, sure. So
and you.
Okay. So I'll start with FANUC, then I'll tell you a little bit about my history.
Perfect.
So FANUC was founded in about 1958, and we started out as a CNC control company. We were actually a spin out, a lot of people don't know this, of a company called Fujitsu.
Okay.
And FANUC actually stands for Fujitsu Automatic Numerical Control.
Where do I know the name Fujitsu? That's been...
Because they also make a lot of electronics and computers.
Doesn't that... It rings a bell for like the 80s.
Yes.
Like I'm a product of the born in the early 70s, so I grew up in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like that was one. So that name, Jai, you remember that too?
Yeah.
All right.
So they spun out of that. They were a subsidiary of Fujitsu back then, doing CNC controls. Right. Okay. So they were one of the first companies. I don't know if they were the first, but they're up there. And as time went on, they got into servo motors. Right. And it was about 1982 or so where FANUC formed a partnership with GM called GMF Robotics, right? So GM FANUC Robotics, okay. To use our servo motors, our technology to build robots, right, for the automotive lines, right? And that's kind of how we got our start in paint robots, right? We were really the first company to do paint robots here in the U.S., which we still own the market share of, and are the primary solution for that. And over the years, we kind of evolved into doing material handling robots, arc welding robots, and now we make just about every robot you can think of that goes into a production system, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of the history of FANUC. Give you just some numbers about how big we've gotten since our inception. I think we just shipped or installed our 1 millionth robot.
That's impressive.
It's a lot of robots.
That's a lot of robots. Yeah. And are some of these, I guess they span from like giant to small applications, right?
Yeah, we make everything from I think it's like a 0.5 kilogram Delta robot, right? So it picks up like an M&M or something, all the way up to a 2,300 kilogram payload robot.
What would that be used? What would something like that be used on? With that small, like to pick up something like an M&M?
Literally to pick up like an M&M or something.
So are you talking about a bunch of those picking up
Yeah, so like you have these small scare robots. People call them spiders, deltas, or sorry, deltas are spiders, not scares. Scares are the are compliance ones that kind of go like this.
Okay.
Um, but delta robots are typically used for high-speed pick-and-place applications, right? So something coming down a conveyor, I need to pick it and sort it into either a package or into a bin or something. So people use those with just anything. I mean, literally, it could be M&Ms. It could be like small LEDs if you're a light manufacturer. Because think about it, some parts only weigh a couple ounces.
Yep.
Right. So, but yeah, everything from half kilogram all the way up to 2,300 kilograms, where you can lift a whole car.
That's impressive. So you mentioned that there was on the front of your website is another. You mentioned right now that there's 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
You just have just sold your millionth robot, but there was a really impressive number that 40. What was it? I wrote it down here. 40 million automated products installed worldwide.
Yeah, so that comprises, so FANUC's made up of a lot of different business units, right? So you have robotics, you have CNC, which CNC actually covers a couple different things. Your servo motors, your drives, and your CNC controls. And a lot of people don't realize, except the people in machine shops that are using our stuff, that FANUC's actually on a lot of CNC machines, right?
Yep.
It might say, one brand name on the big machine, but if you go over to that controller and you look at that dial wheel, it'll say FANUC on it.
Yep.
A lot of people don't know that. But then we also make our own CNC machines, RoboDrill. We make plastic injection molders, Hot Shot. We make a lot of different products.
You have a pretty decent sized portfolio for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to turn and talk to Dusty just a second. I'm going to pitch it this way.
Okay.
You deal with our account managers on a regular basis within Air Power, so you're kind of bridging gap a lot between
Correct.
FANUC, our account manager, the customer, and kind of bringing it all together. In that world and in our world, who is the right customer for automation right now? Like, who is that customer out there that's within Air Power's, range that you can see?
Well,
Where does this stick out?
it could go a couple different ways. I think the big thing right now, so with your larger companies, your mid-sized companies, is safety.
Okay.
It's a constant push for every year they want to do a risk assessment on every machine in there, and try to knock these safety risks off one at a time.
Gotcha.
And there are actually assessments you can do to where it tells you the amount of money it costs if this person gets hurt doing this job. So I think that's one spot that Air Power could really take advantage of, getting in. And you talk about buzzwords. Safety is a buzzword.
Yep.
I mean, it's something that everybody needs to focus on. It's important, but it's also something we need to pick up on when we're the account managers or myself or anybody else is in there talking to these guys. Where are your safety areas you're having trouble with?
Yeah, everything's fine when nobody gets
When
hurt.
nobody's hurt, it's
But
all.
when one person gets hurt in a certain application, you've just bought it. You could have bought a robot at that point.
Or
Yeah.
two or three.
2 or 3.
A lot of times it's when somebody gets hurt is when we get a call
Right.
about, hey, can you come look at this, because this is going to cost us a lot of money. We need to not make that happen again.
And then the other area I would go to for your smaller companies is, with the past 3 years, the way the pay scales in these companies has trajected, a lot of these smaller businesses can't afford to pay what your larger Fortune 500 companies can. I mean, it's just numbers. So if you could make that initial investment, then you could have an employee for 20, 30 years doing that job for the cost of an employee doing it for 2 years.
Yep.
So that it's hard to see down the road like that, but when you could say that, small company doing a material handling or a packaging or even a painting project could have an ROI of 2 years in a business that plans to stay open for 30 years or more,
Right.
that's a lot of money added back to the bottom line.
We've had other conversations on this podcast about, even robotic applications or where you automated, not necessarily robotic, but where you can get repeatability with that spray gun every time. You know, that is this exact same thing happens every single time. Controlled film build, as long as you're keeping the paint regulated, and the you know, the PSIs, the air pressures, the air caps, everything's the same all the time, right? Then it's just repeatable.
Like I seen a picture yesterday, and you know, and I want to say it was one that Air Power may have put out or one of our vendors, but you see guys in a paint booth painting furniture, and they've got hoods on, they have breathing air. You know, we sell those products. We want to continue to sell those products, but I'm looking at it from my point of view is why are we having people in there? You know, this could be something done with, take one of those guys, train them up on how to operate this machinery, you know, give them the fundamentals of what it takes to program these things, and once we integrate it, turn them loose with it, and then you have somebody who's increased their value, and you've increased your profitability in your company at the same time.
Yep.
So you both won. You didn't do away with a job. You created a job that brings in more revenue for you, and you know, the person gets to take home more.
That's right. All right, so I'm going to switch gears here. As everybody out there knows, we a lot of times do a conversation ahead of time before we do the podcast to find, you know, key things that we really want to talk about. And one thing that we hear about a lot lately is, you know, the impending recession, or the recession that people see ahead of us. If you're a manufacturer, I want you to talk to that person. If you're a manufacturer and you're seeing the recession coming, maybe your numbers are a little soft right now, coming off of a pretty good clip for a little while. What should be your approach in regards to automation and robotics? Should it be save my money right now, or what should happen?
Yeah, that's a good question, you know, and nobody wants a recession. I mean, it doesn't feel to me like we're going into a recession. Things still seem very active and strong, but there has been a little pullback here or there. And I'll tell you what our large manufacturers like to do during recession is they like to go full pedal to the metal on automation and robotics, right? The big reason why they do it during recessions is because they know they're going to reduce their labor force, or that it will be reduced, that they need to do cost-saving measures. And they're not looking at what's this look like 6 months down the road. They're looking at it in 2, 3, 4, 5-year clips, right?
Okay.
And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to put robots in their facilities so that they can have better repeatability, right? Better output, better quality products.
Consistent output
during that recession period, and come out of it ahead of their competition that didn't do that.
Yep.
So when we talk to medium and small manufacturers, you know, we talk to them and say, okay, let's take a look at your facility. Let's walk through it. Let's see what applications you have right now that realistically are always going to need to be done, like palletizing, right? End-of-line palletizing, or packaging your products and stuff like that, or machine tending, or, you know, if you're a paint place, painting your products. And let's figure out what it would cost to actually do that automation project, right? Because if you do this during the recession, right, say you have your labor force now. Right now, it's still hard to get people. I mean, it's been hard to get people the last, 2.5, 3 years?
Yeah, since COVID happened, and then, you know, afterwards, people just didn't want to go back, or
something, right?
Whatever it was.
So, and I think about that from the perspective of, if we're going into a recession, right, and we're already having trouble getting people in now, I gotta imagine it's gonna just continue to be hard.
Yeah.
So now is the right time to start looking at it, start making that investment, because when you come out of it, you'll be set up in a better place, because the demand will be there. You won't have this hiring challenge. You'll be ready to produce parts, right, consistently.
So on those small to medium-sized manufacturers, let's talk about the key areas of automation and robotics that they can, and I'm going to pitch these to you guys, because we talked about these at a time to figure out what we wanted. The first one would be economic challenges. Those were palletizing and machine tending. Okay, so who wants to take the first one?
I mean, I'll go with machine tending. I haven't had as much experience with the palletizing, but
Okay.
as far as just your repetitive, I want to put this part in this machine. I want to take this part out of the machine, put it in the dunnage that needs to go in. We go back to the safety thing. I'm moving from here to here to here every day, all day. I'm going to hurt my back. It's just a matter of time.
Yep.
Not only that, but me coming from the manufacturing world, you go do time studies. Well, this is what happens a lot of times to get slipped up, because I go out there to do my time study. Well, is it faster for me to have a robot, or is it faster for me to have John? Well, I'm out there with a stopwatch. John's working.
Yep.
He's working hard. When I walk away, there's no stopwatch anymore. I mean, John's a good guy, but he's not working hard
Yeah, but
anymore.
John's also human, so eventually he's going to fatigue.
Correct.
Yep.
So maybe that first hour or two of the day, maybe even 2 or 3 hours, that pace might be a little bit better than 5 to 8 hours, where the body is just fatigued and it's harder to carry that load from that point to this point to this point, or to do that task.
We were just in a company the other day quoting a robotic application, and the gentleman's giving Jesse and I cycle times. This is what we need. This is what we need. See, they can do this, this, and this. Well, of course, the lady could run a 28-second cycle time, but then there was 60 seconds between that one and the next cycle. So I'm like, well, would we rather have 28 seconds and then hanging out, or would we rather run constantly at 32 seconds? I'm moving it slower through the process, but I'm also hitting it every 30 seconds, all day, every day. Let's pull back from cycle time and let's look at the number we need at the end of the day.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times, even if we can't do it a single part with a robot for whatever reason as fast as a human can do it, the one part, over a 24-hour period, there's no questions asked. We're completely, just wiping the map with it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, though, is a lot of people think of it as, I'm running, 1 or 2 shifts 5 days a week or 4 days a week. This is the cycle time because this is what meets those 2 shifts. Robots can work that third shift. You don't have to be there, right? As long as it's been integrated well, it'll run through that third shift if it's got parts, and that's that extra time you don't have to worry about. Right.
So do you want to handle palletizing?
Oh yeah, I love palletizing, man. I see a lot of palletizers.
You could always tell when one of our guests, when you hit that point, that something they really enjoy in dealing with, because it just lights up.
So I see a lot of palletizers. We sell a lot of palletizers. We talk to people about palletizing all the time because everybody has it, right? You go into any manufacturer that's manufacturing a component, right? And that component's going to go into like a carton, a box for case packing, or it's going to go into a blister pack, right? Eventually, that product has to go into a box, and that box needs to be palletized and sent out the door. So everybody's got it. And if you do the math for a single person that's palletizing something, you calculate how many boxes they're going to lift a shift. Typically, you add all that up and you go, holy crap, this person is palletizing thousands of pounds a day. That's a good workout, whether you realize it or not.
For sure.
And that's an ergonomic nightmare, because that person is going to have a back issue. They're going to hurt their elbow. If the pallets are up high, they're going to hurt their shoulders. So we talk to people about that all the time. I went into a facility a couple weeks ago, and the pallet was so high that the operator had to get on a ladder to get to the top row, right? So you got this person that's going up and down a ladder, every couple of, say every 30 seconds with a box. There's a good chance for a fall right there.
Yep.
And the cost of a palletizer compared to what you're going to pay out there, or what you're currently paying that person, is relatively low. Most people are surprised when they find out how much they can get a palletizer for.
I think more people should think about that if it's that economically viable.
It is, because it's a robot, an end-of-arm tool to pick up your box, and you don't even need, fancy equipment. You can just do 2 pallet locations, have operators with pallet jacks come in and remove them, place new skids down, and just an outfeed conveyor to come to the robot with the box.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, dispensing.
I can start it off on that.
I know dispensing too, but
well, I'll hit a little bit and then I'll let Mark handle it. This is a big one for us. I mean, obviously the ergonomic stuff is because it falls into, the move category of what we do with air power, and we really try to hammer that home. The dispensing is also another thing that's right up our alley, and this one really, with the palletizing and the machine tending, we have some distributed product outside of the FANUC robots that we can put on these things. But with dispensing, that's all us. We're doing a combination FANUC or with Graco or whatever we need to put on there to get the customer's needs in place to give them the bead that they need, or the mixture that they need laid down at the rate they need and the speed they need, or even the reach that they need. A lot of these things will, door gasketing or window gasketing.
Right.
It's critical that it has to look perfect.
Yep.
And it has to look perfect across all angles, and you can't slow through the corner, or you can't speed through the corner, because then it won't have the same height or width that it would. And I mean,
the volume of media, whatever it is,
right,
in that bead has to be very precise.
Correct.
Otherwise, whatever gets pushed together,
your brand new truck's gonna be leaking water.
Yeah, you'll have a water leak,
Correct.
or it just won't adhere properly. So yeah, okay, all right.
Also, you're gonna save money on your literal material costs, right?
Right.
I mean, every plant I've walked into where the humans got that RTV gun or whatever. Just a huge slop of it on the floor next to it, just to wipe off.
It's like the old school caulking gun approach.
Yeah.
Which was really relevant.
When I run out, we'll just get another can of caulk.
Yeah. But you put a robot there, that robot's going to put the exact right amount every time. And, you're going to save a lot of money just because it's not going to have waste, right?
Follow that up with the vision inspection behind it.
Yep.
You don't even have to have anybody look at it. It's a pass-fail. It rolls out. It knows whether it was good or bad, and it takes all the questions out, documents it. That's huge in automotive industries. You have to document pass and fail, or what it looked like on the pass, so they can reference back. It does that for you. You can just set it up to do it for you.
Perfect. Let's move to the next category, finishing.
I'll let Mark handle this whole subject.
So, what type of finishing are we talking about? Sanding or
spray finishing?
Spray finishing.
Spray, like spraying liquid.
Actually, or
powder.
Talk to the sanding stuff. I hadn't thought about any of that.
Sanding.
Yeah.
So I'll let you do the paint side.
Okay.
I'll talk about the sanding side or material removal,
Prep.
finishing, prep. Yeah. So that one's kind of an interesting topic. So there's been a huge push in the marketplace for figuring out how to solve all these finishing applications. And the big reason is because the lack of labor, and honestly, some of it's a little specialized, right? Like, you think about the people that are out there grinding material down or sanding material, they're trying to get a certain finish on that product before it goes to the next stage, right? So doing that with a robot, getting that consistency is really great, and we now have the tools to do it, right? There's companies out there like 3M that have all the different pads, and ATI and Shunk and all these other vendors that have these tools and sand heads that have made it easier for us to figure out how to tack these applications with a robot, right? So from that perspective, it's a very doable application today, right? On the economic side of it, it's still a pretty good return on investment because, typically you're paying your finishing guys a pretty good wage to get them in there and do that job anyway, right? I'll give one application detail, which I think is a really interesting metric or number. You look at the cabinet industry, right? Door cabinets, stuff like that. They call them slabs. Certain facilities sand, some don't. But you think about that application, right? It's pretty simple, right? Up, down, around, and over, and pass it on through. Do you know how many doors for cabinets are made a day?
Unreal amount.
It is an unreal amount. I went into one facility, and I was told they ship 12,000 doors a day. One facility. Now, you got to imagine how many cabinet manufacturers there are in America. I mean, that's got to be an unreal number.
Right.
So imagine how many people are sanding cabinet doors by hand.
There are mobile home manufacturing facilities that have a separate plant just for the doors.
Really?
Just for doors.
That's crazy.
And they literally call it a door plant, and it's all it does is they use the same door for all the interior door applications for every one of their home constructions, and they all go through the same facility, and it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that involved, a lot of robotics involved in that.
Yeah. Now I'll let you talk about the paint side.
All right. Well, the paint finishing, obviously at Air Power, traditionally finishing is the wheelhouse.
Yep.
We do a lot of finishing products, finishing systems, and we've done robotic finishing systems as well. It goes back to, like you said, with the dispensing, how much more can we control the amount we're putting on the part versus putting in the filters. And if anybody knows about filters,
Yep.
you know how much paint do you see going in filters. It's a waste of money.
Too much.
It's too much. So you can do things with the robot that a human can't do because of the repeatability.
Yep.
You're talking about Class A plastics, trying to have a human paint that and get a Class A finish out of it is possible, but if you can control the material going into it, the robot's hitting the same spots every time. There's no runs, there's no blemishes. It goes where it's supposed to go. So that's huge with that. And also with us having the finishing lab here with the paint robot, we've done demos, we've done tests, brought people in, showed them what this stuff can do, and to prove out systems that we've sold.
Yep.
So,
Case packing is the last one we had in this category.
I also have a fond spot in my heart for case packing.
What is
Case packing?
not cake packing, but case packing?
So case packing is where you take your finished product, right? Say you make a cleaner, right? Or vinegar bottles, right? Like literally you're filling a bottle of vinegar. That's the first example I could think of. You didn't take this finished product after it's been sealed and capped. Now you got to put it into a carton or a box, right? To then be put down the line for palletizing. That's called case packing. When we take your packaged good and we put it into a case so that it can then go down the line, right? That one is also just as popular as palletizing. And the big reason for that is because you go into a lot of these facilities where you're making products and you might have one or two people palletizing typically, but on a case packing line, you can sometimes have upwards of 10 or 30 people. I've been in facilities where there's 70 people on a line on a conveyor belt, literally just picking stuff out, packing it into these cardboard boxes, one step at a time. And you talk about a lot of money in labor, that's a lot of money in labor.
Yep.
So case packing is one of my favorite applications because you can literally count the heads and be like, okay, if I put robots here, I can take all these people on this line and put them over there where I can't find anybody right now.
Yep.
Right.
I worked in a I don't know if I should say it. I worked for the company that makes the snack cakes that have a little girl.
Yep.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar.
Yeah. I'm very familiar.
I'm not familiar.
And in that facility, there were hundreds of us, and our only job was to take whatever sweets it was, and put 6 of them in a box.
Yep.
And then the box would go around and seal up, and then it would go over, and then it would an automatic pallet or an automatic box loader. It would slide it out, and you'd have to slide the box over it.
Yep.
Set a scenario. This is back in the early '90s.
Yep.
So I would kind of be blown away, I think, if I went into that facility now, the changes that have taken place in the last 20 years or so. So
yeah.
all right. So what did we have here? Basically, we've covered that. So I'm going to move on to segment 2. Let's talk about the types of robots that we want to come up with that FANUC brings to the market. That also are in our world with air power. So you have the term Cobot.
Yes.
So let's talk about Cobot.
So Cobot stands for collaborative robot, right? And it's kind of an odd term to some extent because a lot of people hear that word. It is a bit of a buzzword in the marketplace, and they don't really understand what cobots are, collaborative applications. So I'll kind of start that off. So there's a couple different types of collaborative applications. One is called speed and force limiting, right, where an operator were to enter a zone and the robot slows itself down, slows its force down, what it's capable of doing, right? And you can use industrial robots for that. There's speed and separation as well, kind of plays into the same idea. And then, if I recall correctly, the last one's called human-robot collaboration. And that's what cobots were really designed for, is that third category. When they first came out, when we first started coming out with them, that's where we were targeting, was I have this robot, I don't need guarding or fencing or anything, and it can work right next to me. But as we found in the marketplace, there aren't a ton of applications that fit all the criteria for that to be safe. Every customer should always do their own safety risk assessment before they implement a cobot, right? We always want to have things be safe. So now that I've talked about the big nuances of cobots, let's talk about what's great about them. They're easy to program. They're super awesome to carry around. Like, I travel with one in my truck, right? So if a customer in North Carolina or Central Virginia wants to see one, I say, sure, let me come in, wheel it in, plop it down on a desk, and show them how to program, right? So ease of use programming, easy to install, easy to literally pick up in place and redeploy. Everything about cobots is meant to be easy, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of the big thing, is they're easy, they're simple, anybody can use them, anybody can program them. They can be used for a large variety of different applications. But the big difference between like a cobot and an industrial robot comes down to power, force, and speed.
Well, take us into industrial robots now.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
So most of our industrial robots are yellow, right? That's how most people think of FANUC, as yellow robots. We do have different colored robots. You can get a white robot. Usually those are for food grade applications for us. So industrial robots, right? If you need something that's going to move really fast, right? Your concern is cycle time, or you have a payload greater than 50 kilograms, right? That's when we start looking into an industrial robot. The other benefits of industrial robots are that they're sometimes a little cheaper too, right? So like, there's a lot of stuff that's baked into cobots, right? Safety features, extra software, extra options to essentially make it easy, but also safe, right? Versus an industrial robot, some of those safety features are truly options that you could or could not purchase, because you're going to implement other safety features that don't require that. A good example might be like hard guarded fences or laser light curtains or area scanners, stuff like that.
Okay.
So you as a end user, as a manufacturer, small, medium, large, whether or not, the way to know whether or not you need a cobot or an industrial robot, to be honest, is just call us. Call FANUC, call Air Power, because I can't tell you how many people call me and ask for a cobot. We get into it and I say, man, if you're okay with this, this, and this, then yeah, this is a perfect robot for you. And a lot of times the conversation goes, well, this is really important to us. I see what you're saying. What would be the industrial robot you would suggest for this? So it can go both ways.
Now, when you move through those, we wanted to talk about one of the hotter applications that's out right now, in a buzzword out there right now is bin picking.
Yes. So,
do you have a lot of experience with bin picking?
I do not have any experience
Okay.
with bin picking.
So we're going to let Mark take this one too.
So bin picking is a super popular application.
They refer to it also as 3D bin picking,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes. So there's actually two different types of bin picking. There's what's called structured bin picking, which is not that difficult to do. There's still some challenges depending upon the parts. It's always about the parts. But structured bin picking is, give you an example, a giant Gaylord, and I have single layers of parts within it, right? So maybe I have a slip sheet within it, and I've got like cylinders on each layer that are just single, right? That's pretty easy because I can find those parts. I know how they're going to be oriented, so I can plan to pick them out each way.
Right.
Random bin picking is I have all my parts dumped into a bin. I have no idea what orientation they're in. Now I have to pick them out. That one's probably the more common one I see, and the one that most people are very interested in because that's how their process has already been defined. How they've been doing it manually is, a good example. People that cut metal, right? Cut chips. I have this billet. Usually they get it in a long bar stock. They're going to cut it on the saw. They're going to dump it into a bin. That bin goes in front of the machine, and the operator's been loading it from that bin straight into the machine, right?
Right.
Now you want to put a robot in front. So a lot of people ask, hey, can I bin pick this? Sure. A lot of times we can. There's no problem with that, but it's always one of those applications where you want to get somebody involved like FANUC or Air Power to literally look at your part under a vision system and go, yes, this will be successful.
Perfect.
I'll give you one example. Customer thought their part was pickable. We got it in, we looked at it, and what we found is the part actually interlocked with each other. And so some parts actually would stick together, and you get two parts. As
Barrel of monkeys effect.
Exactly.
Pick up one, get 27.
Exactly. And so, we said we could probably bin pick this, but you'd have to implement additional cameras to verify we only got one part. And so it just kind of, the cost and everything didn't make sense for that particular application. And they just decided, let's dump it on a vibrating table, singulate it out, and we'll pick it from there.
That's cool. All right, so I want to close this podcast out, but before we do that, I want to talk about the relationship between FANUC and Air Power. And I know that we've had that FANUC in our lab for quite some time now, but I think some things have happened since that went in here to where our relationship is really cemented. Do you guys want to touch on that?
Yeah, we can talk to it a little bit. I guess, this year we decided to sign an exclusive contract with FANUC to where we're not going to be a distributor or representative of any other robot brand.
Okay.
Now with that, we're taking the steps to provide the service, the sales, the integration, and the backup. When something happens, we need you guys to step in. And with that comes a lot of me or some of the other guys bothering Mark a lot.
It's okay. I like you guys.
So, but yeah, the relationship's been really well. I guess you came along with FANUC about the time I came into Air Power. Yep. So, and then me and your predecessor had a little bit of a relationship right before you came along. But no, it's worked out great for us. We get the information we need right away. Mark's even stepped off of, showroom floors at Automate and, hey, I need this now, and, even though we didn't sell it, he still was gladly to step out of doing what he was doing and help us out. So that's the type of stuff we've come to expect with dealing directly with FANUC versus, trying to just sell what the customer wants or what they think they want, and we want to sell them the solution we think is going to work best. And generally with robotics, that's FANUC. And
from my perspective, I don't deal in the engineering side of our business a whole lot. I am on regular conference calls with individuals from that team in other facets of the business that we're in. But what I can tell you is that our engineering team has grown and has matured, and it's pretty awesome to see it where some of these things are really going to take off for Air Power. So I know we appreciate the partnership with you and FANUC.
And it goes a lot to say, and you and I talked about this. When we get into a project and we're like, ooh, we haven't touched this before. Like, let's say the bin picking, ooh, I haven't. You asked me, what do you know about it? I know nothing. But we feel so comfortable at this point. We're dealing with Mark and we're dealing with everybody at FANUC that we've had to talk to. We're going to quote it. Yep. We're not going to back away because we know the second we get done, I'm going to be on the phone with him. Hey, we need help with this. And they're going to send somebody down here to help us every step of the way if we need it to be that way.
Yep. So if somebody wants to review a potential project with us, they're like, hey, Air Power, or hey, FANUC, let's I got an idea. What should we have them do? Should they call the 800 number?
Yeah, that would probably be the best thing. Once they do that, the guys on the team I work with, the engineering team, will step in along with the account managers. We're going to do a site visit. And we're going to see if the solution they're asking for is the solution we want to provide. Yep. Because sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not a fit.
Right, it's not a fit. And if we see a better solution, we want to offer that. And then once that happens, we're going to come back. We're going to jump on our RoboGuide system, do reach studies. We're going to lay in the customer's machine sale and actually, with talking with Mark, figure out what robot fits best in there. And we're going to have a little virtual runoff with them.
Yep.
Hey, is this look like what you had in mind? And if we get the thumbs up, yes, then we're going full bore. Mark, myself, the team, the engineering team here, the specialist team, they're all jumping right in. We're going to get this stuff quoted out, and we're not going to back down from it just because of the support we get.
Perfect. Guys, I think that wraps us up.
Awesome.
But anything else you want to add? I think we're good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Perfect. All right. So, Mark, thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming in. And don't forget that restaurant in Raleigh.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me.
I'll definitely have to go check that out.
I might go over there with you.
Travis,
Dusty, good to see you
as well.
here. Thank you for joining us. All right. So, you've had it right there from the mouths of engineering and FANUC, what can be done, what we can do for your process. Thank you for joining us here with the Air Power Airwaves podcast. And, go see us on all social media applications. And if you want to listen to this podcast on the road, you could go to Spotify, Apple, anywhere your podcasts are loaded into your hearing device or your car, and check it out. All right, I want to close this out by saying what I always say: manufacture it a great day.
Thank you for joining the Air Power Airwaves podcast. Air Power Airwaves is a production of Air Power Inc. and Air Power Live Studios and is hosted by Travis Stirewalt. For more information, please visit airpowerairwaves.com. For more information on all of our products, brands, and manufacturing solutions, please visit airpower-usa.com. If you have any questions or need product support, please contact Air Power at 1-800-334-1001.